Hello, my name is Samantha Toon, and I chose to do my presentation on web usability principles. So what is web usability? Most importantly, it is the ease of use of a website. Some broad goals of usability are the presentation of information and choices in a clear and concise way, a lack of ambiguity, and the placement of important items in appropriate areas. Another important element of web usability is ensuring that the content works on various devices and browsers, similarly to what we have been working on in class when designing our websites. Here are 5 key principles of web usability: availability and accessibility, clarity, learnability, credibility, and relevancy. We will talk about availability and accessibility first, and this is also known as user interaction. An important key is to make sure that your website is relevant to users. Second, it's important that your website works properly so that it does not become useless to the user. For example, speed and loading is important to the user, so to help your website run smoother, you can add links to your photos and videos to another website that can store them, like Flickr and YouTube. Another thought I had found interesting is just staying away from flash video and audio so it doesn't slow down your website. Lastly, here are 3 other basic parts about availability and accessibility. 1. Server uptime. Server uptime has to do with your website functioning at all times. Uptime is just a computer industry term for the time during which a computer is operational. Then you have downtime, which is the time when it isn't operational. Next, broken lines. This is referring to your links, buttons, and forms. You just want to make sure those have all been set up properly and respond correctly so they don't take your user to an error page. Third, make sure your mobile responsiveness is working accurately. I tend to browse on my phone often, and if a site is not mobile responsive, I move on pretty quick. We don't want that for our users. Here I have an example of a good availability and accessible website, Amazon. This table to the right I found at montools.com, and it shows their downtime was 0% straight across the board, which resulted in 100% uptime, meaning that they are fully operational all of the time. The table below shows their website response times, which on average are pretty fast. So they're a good example of a website that functions appropriately and users don't have too many problems when using their site. This is an example of a poor website for a technology university. These pictures with text are actually moving around the top of his head are links. They're hard to read and click on when they're moving around, making it a little less accessible and not user-friendly. The second principle is clarity. A part of this is making sure you're not distracting users with unnecessary elements. So make sure you ask questions about each element that you're putting on the page. If it's super important and relevant, keep it. If it's just fluff, take it out. Make sure it's user-friendly so they'll come back, and we want to make sure we're meeting the goal of those who are coming to use your site. Your website should aid the user to find information they're searching for. Having a clear and usable design is a big part of clarity. Simplicity and clean is really important, and white space is good. You just need to make sure you let your elements breathe. A good example of clarity that I found was this NYC ferry website. They make it apparent right away that they are a ferry system that has more options and that they are selling tickets. There are no huge unnecessary distractions, just 2 appropriate pictures that show you their destinations, and they give you options to buy ticket and their schedules, which I believe would be an important aspect of why you're going to this website. Then this website is for Lipsmacker, which is a well-known brand. They have a good format here, and you know what they're selling right away. I just find it hard to know what to focus on. There is so much going on, and it's a little congested. The colors are bright, the text is fun, but there's just really no consistency, and so I thought it was just a little bit of a mess when it came to clarity for a user. Our third principle is learnability. This refers to designing interfaces that don't require instructions to get through. Keep your site organized. Have key things like a banner, important links at the top, your logo to the left, and a good navigation bar. Make sure it's easy for users to come in to do what they want without having to go through trial and error to find what they're after. Too much effort on the user's part will typically lead them to leaving if they can't find what they're looking for in an appropriate amount of time. Keep your site consistent with your use of color, images, and subpages so that it's easy for a user to navigate to and from pages. Most people are familiar with current web designs on the web, and so it's okay to pattern your site after these kinds of designs that clearly work. Just don't copy exact designs. This physician's formula page I thought was really clear. It has good white space, the use of color is consistent, their logo is apparent, and their banner and nav are all at the top, making it easy for a user to find what they're looking for. Then their footer at the bottom gives you some other options that are clear and help you jump to specific pages that are popular, about us information, newsletter signups, and social media connections. This website, called Paradise with a View, which was hard for me to even find the name at first, is really cluttered. Where do you even begin? What are they offering exactly? It's just kind of a mess all around, with the layout so unorganized and consistency non-existent. A user will have to put in too much effort to accomplish their reason for coming to this site. I know I wouldn't waste my time on this site. I don't feel like I would trust this site either. The fourth principle is credibility. This is when people trust your site. They want to know who you are and that you're a reliable source of information. About Us pages help provide the user with a sense of reality. Make sure your content is honest and precise and don't have grammar or spelling errors. Show the user that you're an expert in your field by giving examples of projects that you've done. Give third-party testimonials, work references, and social media connections so they can look you up and see what you've been doing lately. The example I found is a website for Spinks. They are actually a company that people hire to have them design their company's websites. I thought they did a good job of showing their credibility by just giving some examples of the work they've done. You can see the airplane and doctor picture over there, and if you click on those, you can go explore the project. This lets you see what kind of developments they have made with other companies' websites. Then there's a section of their select client list that shows that they are doing well-named companies and that they are probably a good source for designing your website. This website is for Alaska Coach Tours. They're a company that does tours for cruise ships that come into port in Alaska and Washington. They're a good and successful company that I have actually worked for them in the past. But I just saw a problem when I was looking through their site, and I noticed a spelling error right there on Uncruise Adventures. The Adventures is spelt wrong. So just little things like that can make your website not as credible. Our fifth principle, relevancy, is about having your website define who your users are right away, finding out their goals for visiting your site, and then making up scenarios for why people would visit your site. For example, here's a visual of the Blender bottle website, and the athletic man jumping for the bottle is the first thing that you see when you go to the page. It's automatically representing that it's a website for athletes that use a Blender bottle for performance help. Then you can see in the bottom picture, there's 3 categories that show you other options they offer. They're promoting that month's Blender bottle, and then give users options like fueling your fitness or setting goals that are probably some people's main reasons for coming to their website. Here's a poor example of relevancy. This website is really unclear of exactly what it is they're offering. There's only just a tiny picture of an x-ray to the left, and it's a very blurry picture. It's really hard to know if this website is for x-ray company or for a company that sells supplies and parts for x-rays. It can take you a while to dig through this website to make sure this is where you need to be. As you work on how you're going to format your website in order to be user-friendly, another helpful thing to consider next is your design format. This article gives a quick overview with examples of the important aspects of design listed here. When it comes to designing and developing your website, make sure you have appropriate design principles too. Once you have created your website, you should test usability. Here are some options that can help you with this. You can just search the internet for top websites and check out what works for them, and you can pattern your website after certain ideas. You can hire a usability testing company like Hotjar or Centralis, and the most affordable way is to ask family and friends to test it out. Ask them questions about your site and don't just have them look at it. Here are some questions you can ask them. What is the first thing you notice on the site? Do you think the site is too cluttered and needs more white space? Are you having a hard time finding information? Does the site feel organized? Specific questions like these will help you follow the web usability principles discussed. Here are the references for the website pictures and information that I use for the principles about website usability. I hope this helps with building and designing your websites in the future to make them user-friendly.